We're almost done. We're about to switch to a Q&A, but let me just wrap up a couple more. We got prayer. We got fasting. How about giving? Could we talk about giving for a second? How do we see giving from a new covenant perspective? Now, somebody's about to get excited. He's going to tell me I don't need to pay my tithes anymore. Well, I'm a preacher. I would never tell you that. So in the old covenant, under the law, we were commanded to give 10%. So he's going to bring us from generous to stingy in the new covenant, right? Oh, I don't like where this is going now. What do we do now? Give 80, 90% a year? Watch our income double? Oh, no, we're getting scared. Remember that we're Dutch. Keep it easy on us. Oh, I know you're Dutch. It's okay. I've been here before. I know how it works. Let me show you something here. A lot of times when people get hold of the grace message, the first thing they do, they stop the meager giving they were giving to begin with. You see it all the time. They go from giving to no giving. The issue is not giving to no giving. The issue is law giving versus grace giving. And we're talking about two radically different things. And we don't even have any teaching on it. Here's the thing. Jesus mocks the lawgiver. Okay, the lawgiver. Well, let me show you this. Everybody hold your wallet up for a second. Don't worry, I'm not reaching in there. Hold up your wallet. I see the panic in your eyes. It's going to be okay. Hold this up for just a second. Okay? Let's say, hypothetically, you gave this whole thing to God. Get that? I wanted one of those. So let's say you gave this whole thing to God. Okay? How much have you ever given God? 100%. Yeah, that's bullshit. Here's the thing. Guess where this came from? Guess where this came from? Who this came from? God. You haven't given God anything. He gives seed to the sower. You think this came from your job at the supermarket? Are you kidding? Were you paying for the air you breathed? If you were striving, that's on you, okay? This is a gift. So anything you've given him, you're just putting it back in. He has given seed to the sower. It's all a gift. It's all grace. Everybody say grace. Amen. It's all grace, grace. So look at this. Law giving versus grace giving. The lawgiver, he's got his 10%, and Jesus mocks the lawgiver, right? You've got, let me get you. There we go. Meticulously calculating his little spices, his powders, his cinnamons. Remember, Jesus is mocking them. It's like they're giving 10%, like they're cutting lines of cocaine. There's 10% for you, Lord. Oop, that's 1 grain too many. And don't tell me that you never figured out your tithe with a scientific calculator before. You know, Lord, I'm going to round that last nickel in your favor. Hey. No, I don't even want to hear about it. You just enjoy it, Lord. It's on me. Go have a blast. You go for it, Lord. Hey, don't. It's on the house. Go ahead. So Jesus mocks the lawgiver, but the grace giver splatters it all over the walls. For a couple of reasons here. For starters, the grace giver knows who he is, and therefore he gets hammered on generosity. The lawgiver is trying to climb into an inheritance. The grace giver, Ephesians 1, you have obtained an inheritance. Turn to your neighbor, say, you're filthy, stinking rich. Say, you are loaded. You've got a stock portfolio. You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Your kids are wearing cardigan sweaters. They're on the rowing team. You are loaded. Amen? And what do? We laugh about that. Ha, 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 yes, as if that's true. Ha, 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 yes, I'm poor. No, here's the thing. You know why we laugh? It's because we don't believe it. What if you knew who you were? What if you knew what you really possessed? If you were loaded, what if you started to live like it? What if you started to give like it? What if you started to prophetically frame it up, how you sow? What if you sowed where you want to go? How would you give if you were already a king? How would you begin to give if you had already won the lottery? What if you started to frame that up? You started to live like it. You didn't live like a tightwad. You lived like a person who is a wellspring of generosity because you believe the truth of what's in your belly. Amen? It might change your whole outlook on things. So here's the thing. With a grace giver, okay, it is always an exercise in trust. So he gives you this. It's already, okay, you gave that to, okay, cool. And now stick it in there. What? Stick it in there. What? Yeah, just in the offering, the whole thing. I just put it in there. I don't want to be presumptuous. Don't worry, you've never been presumptuous in this area in your life. You sure? Just peel back those little white knuckles. You sure, Lord? And you stick it in there. Then it multiplies. And then you hoard that. I grew up in a generation in America in the 1980s. Now, I know here in Europe, you guys don't have a lot of word of faith teaching on this, and so there's a real criticism in this area. But we also in America had that. In the 1980s, we had the televangelism scandals. You had the TV preachers, and then, they got busted for having golden dog houses with air conditioning and stuff. And so it was just, everybody was real critical. It's like, you don't use the word preacher and money in the same sentence. And so as a kid, I was real critical of that. And years ago, I was living in Alaska. And this is before I was in public ministry. And I had a lot of potential for ministry. I was moving in the prophetic. I was moving in healing. I could teach a little bit. But one thing that was holding back my destiny, holding me back from ministry, is I was broke, okay? I was poor. I was so poor, if I went to KFC, I had to lick somebody else's fingers, okay? So money, resources, it was like a cork in the bottle that was holding back the rest of my potential. Now, everybody think of something. Is anybody called to do something? Business, finances, art, media, missions, anything. Raise your hand if you know you've got a calling from God in your life, something that you're called to do. It could be anything, education, anything, media, art. And how many guys, just honestly, you need a little cash to make it happen, right? Now, we don't want to hear about it in church, but we think about it all week long, right? So you need cash, but you have the vision, but you don't have the cash. Dude, start sowing kamikaze. Start getting hammered drunk on generosity. Man, a drunken giver blows the religious guy, the critic, out of the water every time. So anyways, I didn't have that revelation. So I was a faithful, legalistic tither, but that wasn't helping me at all. I literally lived in a trailer, in a caravan in Alaska, okay? I was trailer trash. Right? Maybe you're trailer trash. I lived in a refrigerated caravan, okay? Even worse. So, here's the thing. I was living up there, and we brought this guy up to do a week-long set of meetings. And he was a guy who moved in the supernatural and stuff like that. And we bring him up there, and he comes to do some meetings. And the first day, now I was so critical over money stuff, I had one of these Benny Hinn mockumentary videos where Benny Hinn would say something, and his eyeballs go cha-ching, like dollar signs. You guys know that. You're Dutch, right? Yeah, I've been here before. So here I was in the meeting, and this guy, all he's talking about the entire meeting was money. Money, 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 money. I was a little annoyed, right? So the next day, all day long, all he talks about, money, doom, doom, money, all day long. Every day, all day, bling, 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 cha-ching, cha-ching, for the whole week. And it's the last day of the meetings. And here I am, I'm sitting there, and I'm upset. He's still rattling off about cash. And I'm sitting there, and I felt like the Lord comes and puts his hand on my shoulder. And he says, buddy, you do live in a caravan. Maybe you should pay attention to this guy. And then I thought of something Jesus said. He said, blessed are those who are not offended because of me. It was like he's drawing a line. Are you blessed in your caravan or offended in your pew right now? And then I thought of something Rick Joyner said. He said, criticism is the number one thing that holds us into poverty. And I was thinking about like what he said, like Micah, Michael, David's wife, Michael, she was critical and she was barren her whole life, that criticism. So I'm sitting here and I just realized I am so critical right now. I don't like this guy, still don't care for him too much today, but what I'm gonna do is I am gonna write the biggest, fattest check. You know, we have like checkbooks in America. And so I get my checkbook out and I decided I am going to spite my own criticism. I'm going to offend my own offense. I'm just gonna come against that. Even though I don't like this guy, I'm gonna come against that thing because that's not my point. And so I just start writing a check. The zeros are flying. Real digit in front too. Before the meeting was over, somebody came up, stuck a check in my pocket. Now listen, nobody had ever done that kind of thing to me before. We were in the meeting, this one friend of mine, you know, sometimes when that spirit of generosity kicks off, it's like crazy. It's like when people's eyes see it, it's like giving is like going back in a time machine and investing in Apple stock in 1982. You just chuck everything in there. And I've been in meetings where that thing kicks off and dudes are chucking their shirts in the offering. Car keys are flying, like crazy stuff, right? And ladies, please keep your shirts on, local ordinance. So my friends were in that same meeting that day. They threw their diamond engagement ring in the offering. Okay? You gotta be drunk, a drunk giver to do that, right? Listen to this. Later, that very week, in their cabin in Alaska, they happened to find a diamond ring double the size of the one they put in the offering. Probably just a coincidence. Within 2 weeks' time, I get 3 telephone calls, people giving me tens of thousands of dollars to start traveling around the world, doing massive evangelism campaigns, doing itinerant ministry. I said, cha-ching. I throw away the Benny Hinn video. All of a sudden, I was a man with a revelation. I had never had this revelation on giving before. I mean, I would occasionally throw, you know, even a missionary came into town. I'd give, you know, a few $100 occasionally. It's not like I was that stingy, but like I'd never given like a grown-up. Like, how does a grown-up give? It was always this fearful kind of religious tipping, you know, $50 maybe or something. But like the first time I gave 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. First time just giving away 30,000. Who does that? There's years I didn't even make that much money. It's like bungee jumping. Here we go. In 1 year's time, we were able to give away more money than we made the year before. In 1 year's time, our income more than doubled. I was like a man who had a problem. Like I needed to go to a gambling addiction place or something. It was like any ministry that had a drop of oil on it, we start chucking money at it. It was crazy, right? Our second year, and like right around that time, actually, there was a time I didn't have enough money to pay my bills. And so I'm realizing this new covenant, Pauline, this is sowing and reaping. It's not law. This is new covenant. This is Paul. So I remember it was like, dude, I didn't have enough money to pay my bills. So I just do the dumbest thing. I empty my whole bank account, give it all to an orphan ministry. Because I knew I needed a miracle. So like, who does that? The next day, I get a telephone call, somebody giving me thousands of dollars. I had no sugar daddy partner list. I had no grid for what was going on. In 1 year's time, our income doubles. Second year, doubles again. Third year, doubles again. I'm talking doubles from there, doubles from. Fourth year goes up. Fifth year, doubles again. At that point, dude, you have to be careful. Because if you're in ministry, I mean, it's okay for people expect, it's okay for whatever, but you cannot have money. People expect you, they expect the preacher to be broke as a joke. That's the expectation, is poverty equals spirituality. That's the spirit of religion. Did you know that? That is religion at the core. And I hate to tell you guys, and I don't mean this personally, but it is bigger here in Europe than I see it anywhere else. I was in Africa, in November, and they gave me $5,000. In Africa. I didn't go looking for money in Africa. I was there paying to go. These guys, they said, Our help does not come from abroad. It comes from above. The pastor hands out envelopes to a church in Africa. They send me home with $5,000. I'm like, what is going on here? This is crazy. I figured it up. That was worth 2.5 days' wages each per person. They did that. That is crazy. But I'm telling you what, there is this religious poverty thing, and it's not just in Europe. It's also in the South, in America, where it's the Bible Belt, where it's, why did poverty and religion go hand in hand? There's something interesting going on here. So my 5th year, you have to be careful, because if you're a preacher, they expect you to be broke. And it's okay for your kids to eat generic brand cereal, but they can't eat real cornflakes if you're a preacher. But seriously, that's how people think. And a lot of it goes back in your culture to where the government pays the preachers, and so you don't actually, it's a weird thing, like a tax. And then also, it's like the idea, well, your kids can go to community college and learn to change a tire, but they can't go to the good colleges and learn to change the world. Because it's like, there's this poverty thing. So, and all of a sudden, this income's doubling. So if you're a preacher and you actually start moving into like finance, people, they want to kill you. They literally want to kill you. Because who's the one guy we can all agree to hate? The money-grubbing televangelist, right? Creflo Dollar wants a $60 million airplane. Well, give him a freaking $500 billion submarine for all I care. What is it to me? Why do I sit on the sidelines and criticize? It's like whether he needs it or not is not my call to make. Like, why do I have to feel like I've got to be the critic in this? You see how this works? Because it goes back to our vilification of money, which is a Gnostic pagan idea. And Jesus never said one negative thing about money. He knocked the idolatry of it. And so people say, oh, well, your income's doubling because you take them offerings up all the time. No, here's what happened. Dude, we started to move in some friggin' supernatural crazy stuff. All of a sudden, I walk into an office store one day where they sell computer paper. This lady comes up to me. She does not know me from Adam. And she says, I haven't paid my tithe in months. And she gives me a check. I'm like, do you know who I am? She says, no. I said, please don't Google me. Thank you. I'm laying on the ground one day, hammered drunk, I'm in a trance. The Lord shows me a stock to invest in. I don't know anything about the stock market. I get online, figure out how to buy this stock. The thing jumps up 110%. Dude, that is insider trading. Amen? I have a dream one day where I get a Chinese stock in my dream. I wake up the next day, look online, it's a real stock. I buy it, a lot of it, sit on it for like a year. And I don't know anything about stocks. I don't have a broker. I know nothing. Total idiot, okay? And I don't know that if you sell a stock under a year, you get taxed a lot. I didn't know that. So I'm wondering, the stock's just kind of going down a little bit. And I'm thinking, man, that must have been a pizza dream where I just learned Cantonese. So I sold the stock, okay? As soon as I sell it, the thing jumped up 400%. I said, sorry, Lord, bought back in. All I did was double my money.